All right, what's up, guys? This is Listen Up Long Island, episode 18, and we're here with the dudes at Ronin. What's good, guys?
Us.
Everything's good. I right before we started rolling, I got word from the lawyer that the check cleared, so we're good to go with the podcast, man. Come on. Well, the Ronin motto is, if the check bounces, so do we.
All right.
And that's the Ronin guarantee.
All right. Okay? So you guys don't do pay to play or anything like that?
No. Well, we get paid to play.
We definitely do pay to win.
All right.
Yeah, microtransactions.
I joined this band playing bass. They've given me a really good opportunity, and they're some of the best guys that I know. And we got stupid lucky with a lot of the opportunities that were given to us just based off the business relationships that Chris, Jack, and our former drummer Moss kind of built. So, I kind of like walked into this, expecting to have fun and still having fun, but also reaping a fuck ton of benefits
we've had zero
I had
fun.
no effort in putting in,
No, like it was nice. Like, he's giving us probably too much credit, but
It was really nice because he didn't come in expecting to make money, so we could actually work with him.
no, definitely.
Well, this is an achievement for us today because this is the very first time that we've had a signed band on our podcast. So you guys have achieved a certain status that allows you to be in a certain circle of the top metal bands or top rock or bands that are in the Northeast region. So how does that give you a leg up in what you got going on?
I feel like that's kind of like to clarify, we are a signed band, but we are signed to an independent label. A lot of the misconceptions with labels these days is there are major labels and there are independent labels. And what major labels tend to do is they tend to give you a loan with a high interest rate. So when you get like a label deal, like you could get $1 million label deal, but you don't actually own that money. You actually have to pay back that money through touring, through setting up shows, playing outsold shows. That's why a lot of bands that on their first 2 years of getting signed, they have to, one, retain their merch sales or else they lose all of that very quickly. And they have to play sold out shows. They have to play shows in their hometown. They have to do supporting tours with bands that are drawing a fuck ton of people in those areas and making sure that they're researching the right bands for local support, and that all comes through, paying back that loan. With an independent label, a lot of those label services are kind of given to you, and they just cut out the middleman and just kind of say, hey, this is the deal. This is how much it's going to cost. If you guys are willing to put that up, we will accommodate and give you these services. So they offered us, access to a lot of their label services from, tour opportunities, booking opportunities, a lot of graphical design opportunities, radio campaigns, radio interviews, media campaigns. They also assisted a lot with our advertising, our album rollout, and our distribution. So a lot of our stuff comes from being able to watch as our music gets streamed through like Sony Orchid and stuff like that, and even just seeing like some of our discs being in like the different record stops or being
Barnes
like,
and Noble.
Barnes and Noble's was the wild one.
Yeah.
So if you were
I didn't even know that still existed.
Yeah, if you were to search up Valak the Defiler, Barnes and Nobles, you will be able to actually buy a copy from
that was pretty cool.
from Barnes and Nobles, either from like a drop shipping site or from one of their local retail sites. So there were a lot of benefits to doing it that way, and I think depending on I guess the type of people that you are. Looking at label and label management kind of, differs from person to person because we all have different needs. We all work 9 to 5s.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like getting the label in question is Pavement Entertainment. They're a subsidiary of Sony Music, and they kind of work in conjunction with Sony Orchid or Orchard.
Orchard,
right?
Yeah.
Or Orchid is a flower.
Yeah, it used to be Sony Red.
Yeah, so, a lot of the things we got pretty lucky with because we worked a campaign on Temptress from our first album with Pavement because we had just released the album without really kind of shopping it around because it was the first time we did it.
And they're like, what the fuck are you doing? Why didn't you bring this to us?
Yeah, why didn't you bring us the album? Like, we could have shopped it around. And part of it was probably because they wanted to make some money, but the other part of it was they seemed to be kind of behind what we were doing. So when the second album came around, they're like, no, give us the album, and we'll shop it around. So we entered into a 50-50 agreement. So what that means is you both fronts 50%, and then you both reap 50% over 3 years. So I figured, like when we discussed it, that's probably the best deal we're gonna get. Being like pretty much no names,
especially as an independent. We made the album ourselves. We were not with a label when we made the album, so we put out all for that. You know, it wasn't like they asked us for songs. They were just like, oh, if you make another album, come our way.
Like we're definitely interested.
Yeah. And I feel like for a lot of musicians that are starting out, that are no names, that don't have the liberty to tour all the time and to go on tour all year round, that's something where if you have the finances, you're working the 9 to 5, that's something that makes it a little more manageable for someone that has like that, you know, financial backing or that financial security. And I think, you know, the rise of independent labels has been like a blessing and a curse, because there are a lot of misconceptions to it. But like Chris said, you know, those 50-50 deals are crazy. You know, imagine being told, hey, you put 50% up front, we'll put the next 50%. You don't have to pay anything back. You know, you just put that money down, you're already getting the radio campaign and everything in the next like month.
Everything blows up because, you know, they want to make money too.
Yeah.
So they're like, oh, hopefully, you know, we'll put a little bit of a gamble up, but we're not going to do it by ourselves.
Yeah. It's a little bit more like a manager than a little bit feeling like a label, because, you know, it's like they're making money if you're making money, so they're like working to help you.
Trying to make everyone
they want to see you succeed rather than just you're another drop in the pond.
Yeah, and even like the deals, at least for us with our label, we got a better deal on royalties than most labels, you know, usually shell out to musicians.
Yeah, getting 50% is.
Yeah, that's not even. We're getting like almost 80.
They call you like weekly, and they're like, "Hey, just checking in to see." You know, is it like that?
It's really through email.
It's through emails. Yeah,
we probably get an email
every like
from them like
once a week.
Every week, at least one.
We get like once a week, and then like we have the tour opportunities that come in as well. And a big misconception of touring, which I think a lot of people don't understand. It's expensive. If you're not expensive. If you're doing it by yourself, you're doing it DIY, that's a big investment on you. And then if you're a no-name band,
it's hard to sustain.
Yeah, and if you're a no-name band, you're like some of those, you know, big touring bands, and I'm not going to name names because I don't want to like get shot down or anything like that by like, you know,
some of the things they ask for like buy-ons to get on the tour.
They're going up to
10, No, 8, I'm doing this right now. Which camera should I look into? Which camera? Shame on all of you big bands who put prices in front of letting the smaller, younger bands open for you. What are you thinking? You think that a no-name band has 50 grand to throw at you?
I'm just gonna clip that. And that's the whole episode.
That's the teaser, yeah.
All right, that's a wrap. That's a wrap.
Sounds good to me.
But seriously, there are a lot of misconceptions to that, and it's an expensive thing to do. And if you're gonna work with those bands, unless you know have a personal relationship with them, or like you're like family with the dude, you're not going to get the same courtesies as, you know, working within your community.
Because it's a really romantic kind of notion, thinking about, oh, we're out on tour, you know, we're grinding it out. But a lot of the bands that we know that have done that, the return on it is not great. It's not great. It's hard to sustain that. And something like, because in previous years we used to gig a lot more, like trying to do like every other weekend or something like that. And it's like you play the same places over and over again. It's kind of hard. You're building some sort of community, but it's hard to get the same people out. When they know what they're getting, it's a good show, but it's like, all right, well, I just saw you 2 weeks ago here, I don't want to do that. And a lot of bands are doing that. And we're not saying like, you know, we're the experts, but I think picking and choosing fewer gigs, but maybe more high profile. And sometimes you do have to do like a little buy-on, be like, you got to guarantee 20. It's like, fine, we know we can get 60. Whatever, we'll eat that because we got to open for Accept twice.
Yeah.
You know, up in Poughkeepsie and then at Stereo Garden. So we got to be exposed to people we never would have gotten exposed to. We had to front some cash, but then we made it back on ticket sales.
Because we're putting in the work. And that's that's something that a lot of people don't understand. And for bands that are starting off, you know, that buy-on is definitely scary. You know, especially when you have no audience, when you have no community. We're lucky and grateful that Chris has a giant family, so we just like offload our tickets to them. But
that's true.
But you know, like
and
even
like, who we're here to see, Chris.
Yeah, right.
Chris.
Ronin, say Ronin.
Say Ronin.
No one knows who I am.
But you know, like, and Chris makes a lot of valid points. We're like because our people, our regulars, our regular community, they only want to come out every so often. They know what they're going to get when they go to a Ronin show.
You can't blame them.
You know,
it's like you can't expect them to always come out. You have to give them an incentive to come out. So like once a month or once every other month at a different place, I think is good. You know, not like there's a place, R.I.P. Rams in Holbrook.
Rams.
Where it closed down.
And it's no great loss.
Yeah, some bands were playing that every week, and it's like there's a low ceiling playing the same place every single week. You know, try to like make some variety. Like AMH when it's done, I can't wait till it comes back because I can't wait to get back in.
That's gonna be one of our crazier shows too because we have a crazy draw in
I can't wait.
And it's really hard to express exactly how much COVID affected the music scene. It's still off since then.
It's still limping back.
We felt like we were on like starting to take off, and then everything shut down. And since then, like nobody wants to go to shows anymore. It's really hard to fill.
I feel like it's just starting to kind of. And like the stuff you guys are doing, I think is great because it's starting to sort of cultivate that kind of community, and it's good to see. Like the festival you guys threw, it was awesome.
Yeah,
the place was packed.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Also, the venue was phenomenal. Like being able to go and
Stereo Garden.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
a big space, so to fill it, to make it look full.
You guys are going to be at Stereo Garden this upcoming week, right?
Yeah, the 27th.
Next Saturday,
we're playing with Devoted Fusion, and they were on the podcast earlier. And this is like in retrospect, once the episode does come out. They were on the podcast earlier. You know, we were talking with Dylan Franzen about touring and stuff like that, and tour experience.
Yeah, we're opening for. Technically, we're closing the night.
Well, technically, we're supporting.
Yeah, we're supporting.
Annika.
Annika. We have the late slot, and Annika's on before us. You know what that means? We have the high ground. Don't try it, Annika. Don't try it.
We have the high ground. Love you, Pete.
That's great. Yeah, they were kind enough to let us have the later slot because I'm flying in from Jamaica earlier that day, and I just wanted to make sure that there was room because we didn't want to pass on the show because it's been a while since we played.
Yeah, he's playing a solo show in Jamaica.
Yeah.
So we're
just me and all the Rastafarians. Yeah, I look like the type, I'm sure. No, family vacation. No songs.
He's flying from Jamaica, Queens.
Yeah. So it makes me feel like more of a big shot.
Yeah.
Get off the plane.
Land on the roof.
Yeah. I got my white leather jacket on.
Exactly.
Shit-eating grin. I'm like, I'm ready to play.
So anything like special that you got planned for the 27th?
We have a sub-in drummer.
Yeah.
We have a sub-in drummer.
That's special.
I'm going to give him a shout-out. That's Gino Scalamento? Spaghetti.
I just know him as
You're going to shout it out.
I know him as Gino. He plays for this punk band called East End Criminals, and they do a lot of, like, older punk music. They do a lot of, like, covers of punk music and stuff like that.
He's doing us a big solid.
Yeah, he's doing us a very big solid by hopping in and filling in those shoes. And as of right now, a lot of it's working on music, trying to be on a consistent content schedule, and really reworking a lot of things. We took a pretty big hiatus during the holidays, unannounced hiatus.
Well, yeah,
just
a lot of it had to do with losing the.
Yeah, it was a very unannounced losing of our drummer. By the way, if you're a drummer on Long Island, hit us up.
And we say losing, he's not dead.
He's not dead.
Still alive.
He's still alive.
He
just decided.
We brought him to a park and he just ran off.
We set him free.
But
it wasn't like I'm going to feed the rabbit situation, taking him out back.
Yeah.
It wasn't any of that.
Drummer issues, man,
But we love Moss. We will always support him. He's always had our back. He's been one of our biggest supporters and one of the more pragmatic members of the band. Because I think
he was a big part, website and stuff. So we have to reconfigure some things.
Yeah, he just couldn't take the weight of Ronin on his back anymore.
But much love to him. He's just doing what he needs to do for himself right now, and I respect the fuck out of him for.
And again, that goes back to kind of what we were saying about doing the 9 to 5
balance
job, and then also trying to start a family if that's what you want, and then also having a band. Having a band is hard enough as it is, as everyone's seen through history. Keeping a band together is not easy. So then we each have our own individual lives. We have our significant others. I have 2 children. It's like I have a house to take care of. He lives in an apartment. It's like there's a lot of things demanded of you. So to kind of keep the band together, and I think where we're at, maybe not where we want to be eventually, but I think at least myself, I'm very proud of what we've done under the circumstances, because it's definitely not easy.
Yeah,
getting that balance.
Yeah,
for me.
Yeah, I mean, I went through that too with my band. The fact that touring, as you said, is like so taxing on your family situation. And that is probably why we're focused on bringing better events to Long Island, improving the scene here. Because if you were to just tour Long Island, I mean, it's easier to build a fan base here. It's easier to build a community in one space. So I think the most cost-effective thing would be to have a band here that creates that community. And so creating a community around your band and creating a reason for them to come out, I think that's something worth putting your effort into.
100%.
100%.
And that's definitely the impetus, I think.
Yeah, and that's something that we've always done to separate ourselves from just being a normal rock band or whatever, between my crazy stage presence, which is dialed down as I've gotten older,
especially when he wears smooth bottom shoes.
Oh God,
because that's what the feet
and apple bottom jeans.
I was gonna say
boots with
I wore these smooth shoes playing Stereo Garden, and I almost fell off that stage.
He was so pumped. He's like, check out these new boots I got. I was like, those are awesome. I love them.
You greased them up before the show. You're like, you don't want to do that.
We're playing. I look to my left. I see him. We're playing. I look back to my left. He's gone.
These fuckers right here.
Yeah.
They do have that optional railing. I would highly recommend that for you.
Honestly, there have been so many events because of just how I play and how I use my stage presence. I tend to move a lot.
Definitely.
Where
it makes the show more exciting.
Falling is just kind of like either it's going to happen at some point or it's not going to happen. And I've fallen off stages on so many occasions from my own experience outside of this band. And even in this band, we played The Chance, and we have a video of For Whom the Bell Tolls. I'm literally playing, and I'm literally fucking almost falling off the fucking stage. That's a 6-foot drop right there.
Yeah, that was a big one.
But he didn't miss a beat.
No, he missed 2.
We had a guy come up to us after that show crying, weeping. I'm not even joking. A man came up to us weeping, telling us that we played For Whom the Bell Tolls better than Metallica. And I was like, this has to be Poughkeepsie.
Yeah.
This has to be Poughkeepsie.
This big, 6'6", burly, 300-pound guy just laying on top of us. And he's just in our face. He's like, that was incredible. I'm like, thank you, but... My God, someone get this guy.
Well, we had a 5th member that night, and his name was Johnny Walker.
Johnny Walker, yeah. 5th member. Well, speaking of Johnny Walker, that's another thing we like to bring to shows, not alcohol, but we like to hang out with the other bands. We like to hang out with the people.
Yeah.
We arrive early, stay late. That's kind of what we always do. It doesn't always work out for you in that way. It's not always reciprocated. Looking at some other bands out there, it's nice to reciprocate. Just like in a relationship, you give, you get. That's how it works.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what we like to do, to kind of, like you said, build that community. Be like, oh, this band, they went on 4 hours ago, but they're still here, hanging out. And then you're also patronizing the place. You're paying for drinks. You're bringing people also that buy drinks and get food, like at your festival. So if people just show up and stand there, it's like, well, all right, the food truck didn't make any money, the bar didn't make any money. It's like, they're probably not going to invite us back. It's not we brought a lot of people, but okay, it didn't you got to serve everybody. And I think that's part of that community aspect.
Yeah. And that's something that even on a previous podcast episode with Scooped Up, they stay for their shows. They try and build community. I know when I go out, I do my best to kind of, hang out with the community, and I have more free time than these guys.
Definitely.
So, I'm able to just kind of go in and out. What sucks is when I double book myself and I have to be at one place and then another place. So for every band that I've dipped out on early, I am so sorry. I love you guys to death. I will, buy your merch or whatever to make up for it.
Right.
Which I have before on a few occasions, or I show up late, so I buy some merch. But it's about supporting the community. It's about being there and engaging in the environment, engaging in the music. And every time that we play a show, that's something that we try to do. We try to talk to everybody. We try to, be friendly with everybody, be, professional, be cordial with everybody, because you never know what type of relationship you're going to get. We ended up playing Lucky 13 through one of our shows just by staying late and just hanging out and talking to people.
Kevin Castle, who books Lucky 13 in Brooklyn, reached out to us and offered us, actually showed during COVID, and then that didn't work out, but then he followed through and gave us shows later on, which was awesome.
You always get a home run on a follow through.
Yeah.
Always.
Always.
That's how you hit the home runs.
That's how you hit the home runs. But yeah, no, it's all about community, being a part of it, engaging it. And that's, again, I've told you guys before, and I've even told you, that's why I firmly, support this and endorse this podcast, and everything that we've done with it. That's why we're doing another event June 21st.
Whoa.
Oh, Celestial Quest. You see what I did there?
Nice.
I brought that in there.
Slippery bastard.
Taking up our time with your advertisement.
That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, we are doing a summer music festival, and it's another event just to bring the community together.
Oh, yeah.
We're doing Two Worlds Collide, which is the indie music scene and the EDM scene into an indie EDM rave.
Indidium.
Indidium Quest.
We should have called it that.
Indidium. It's not too late. Update everything.
We haven't announced it.
That one's free. You can take it.
Indidium. That's great.
Well, we'll call it Project Indidium, and then we'll.
You got to bring
call
a
it Celestial
pickaxe.
Quest.
Yeah, I was going to say, it sounds like some sort of rare ore.
Yeah, it does.
I forgot that we're all fucking
lining the bones of a mutant or something.
So it's gonna be fun. You know, you guys should come through.
Absolutely.
I think a lot of people from the community are gonna be there.
Oh, yeah.
They saw what we did in March, and we're gonna do something even bigger.
Yeah, well, that's what at least we've seen, and like I felt the same way with the band. Like every step you take, you're improving upon something. You're building. You know, the idea is not to take any steps back. Sometimes it happens, like with COVID, but you try to bounce back further, and that's what at least I've seen with your whole crew is you guys keep stepping it up further and further, because that event, if that event was like any sort of precursor to what's coming, then you know the sky's the limit.
Yeah,
the sky's the limit.
Yeah, it's gonna be the Attitude Era for
hell yeah,
Attitude
hell
Era.
yeah.
Let's go.
Steve Austin style.
Let's do it.
You know, one of the things that I did want to, touch upon very gently,
yeah, you don't want to get in trouble.
We're just gonna have a big band breaking fight right in the middle of the interview. Something I did want to talk about was the way that your wife looked at my wife.
I'm not even married.
Too sensually.
But
Too much sensuality.
What was that?
Yeah,
one of the
was-
things that I kind of want to mention, since we were on the conversation about being on the label and finances and stuff like that. If you're a musician and you're serious about being a musician, look into starting a sole proprietorship. Any expenses that you have as a musician to help sustain your career, to make it a sustainable career, not a hobby. Make sure there's a distinct difference.
Yep.
You can actually write those off and use those for your benefit for the following year. And that's something that I learned this year when I filed my taxes, because my mom had explained it in passing, and I called this guy up because he's been handling a lot of the finances for the band, and
right into the pocket.
Right into the pocket.
He gave you good advice, but I gave you better advice because I told you to call him.
It's true. It's
That's right. I called him, and then he told me to call him. But seriously, if you're a musician out there, you're looking for that extra needed break when it comes to the touring style and stuff like that. Expenses that you have, like driving your car and stuff like that. Look into that stuff and really seriously think about it, because the more paperwork that you have, the more legitimate you look. And
you'll feel like it's more important when you have that sort of, even if it's just a label on you. It's like, I have an LLC. The band is actually a company. It's like, all right, now I need to start treating it like a company. Well, you're writing these expenses off, but everything you're getting is not just for just for the hell of it. I'm getting a new guitar. It's like, okay, I want to get equipment so we sound better. I want to buy new things, even just something as small as strings, you could write off, because if you could prove to the state and the Fed that it's not just a hobby, you show each year that you're making moves toward actually becoming profitable.
Yeah.
They'll let you keep going, because they're like, okay, this guy they're not just playing around. They're not just going out and be like, I'm just going to, I just want to play guitar and I'm just collecting guitars. They'll be like, no, that's not you're not a business. You're literally just a hobbyist.
Yeah, that's actually, a lot of people say, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, practice, practice. It's actually practice, practice, know somebody. So, I mean, you got to...
Someone like a Carnegie.
Yeah, practicing alone is not going to get you there.
Yeah. And that's something that is also true that a lot of people overlook. You need to really build connections and networks if you're going to get somewhere. We built the relationship with Pavement through, shopping out a campaign with them. So obviously we have a relationship with them.
Yeah, take take the shot
ourselves,
too.
but take the shot. Take the opportunity to talk
They
to
can just
them.
say no, and you go, all right.
Yeah, when we first started talking to Pavement, we did not expect them to want us at all. We were like, well, shot in the dark, maybe they'll like it.
Yeah, we shopped around to a bunch of places.
Like to the point where like other bands came up to us and were like, can you give us Pavement's information? How did you get this? And we were like, yeah, just send them your stuff. And like we heard back from them, the Pavement wasn't interested, and we were just like, oh, okay, so it's not just that they're gonna take anything, to get work. I was like, okay,
because it made us feel better. Be like, all right, so they don't just want money.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so they actually are interested in, quote unquote quality.
Quality, yeah.
Or according to their tastes.
Well, I mean, if you're a brand, obviously you want to have quality control.
Yeah.
Cut that and make sure I say
quality control.
High quality.
This is a phonetic lesson.
I want like 4K HD, 280 frames per second.
Yeah.
Well, what about your recent album and all those endeavors? Like, what was the process like in recording? What did you go through?
Oh God, we had so many fights.
Yeah, mostly fights.
Some we still haven't recovered.
We had a fantastic sound engineer named Frank
Materatona from Voodoo Studios in Port Jeff.
Absolute wonder of a guy who he'll just sit there.
Him and Mike Watts, the owner.
Yeah.
Every single thing that he suggested was something that increased the sound.
Yeah, it improved it.
Yeah.
There were a lot of instances where we had, or at least I had, being a bass player, overplayed a lot of parts, and he told me to peel back. And I didn't take any offense to it. Like, if it serves the song,
that's pretty much where we come from. Whatever we're doing, as long as it serves the song, it's not.
Yeah, if it serves the song, it's fine. And honestly, his direction, his guidance has been so good. He even has a crazy discography under his belt. Like, he recorded, like, that studio did, the Yvette Young Covet band, and that's like actually one of my favorite like math rock Midwestern emo bands. I got to use the same cab as David did.
They've worked with Lamb of God.
Yeah, they worked with Lamb of God.
It is really important to have a vision for what you want your music to sound like, but it's also really important for you to take advice from people in the industry who know what they're talking about. And Frank knew what he was talking about, and really, I think it made the sound twice as good as.
And it also helped that he's like. We got along very well.
Yeah.
Like similar senses of humor.
Yeah.
So like the studio was a lot of fun because we used them for the first album too. And going into the studio is very intimidating because time is money.
Yeah.
So you're like, I'm paying for this time. I don't want to fuck up so bad that we have to keep doing these takes.
Yeah.
So we had to really like get our chops up. And then playing to a click.
We recorded.
Is difficult, and all of us together playing simultaneously to get the drum tracks down. And then from there, each person adds their own layer. So having him at the helm, and then him getting like our vibe, so to speak, I think was incredibly integral to being able to come out the other side, being happy with what we had.
He knew about Trumpet Fight. Enough said.
He did know about Trumpet Fight. The man with no torso. Douglas, Douglas Levison, who pretty much taught us everything we know. If you haven't seen Trumpet Fight,
he trained us classically. He trained us contemporaneously.
The man walked Bob Dylan on stage in 1960. Okay, that's why we're part of the NTPOS, No Talent Pieces of Shit Brigade. That's the school of music that we learned from. Was the No Talent Pieces of Shit.
Oh my God,
we wear that badge proudly. But seriously, look up Trumpet Fight. You will not. You will not be so.
That's such a throwback.
Yeah, we dated ourselves just now.
That's such a throwback because we were in the studio. They showed me this fucking video of this dude arguing over a trumpet. It's so stupid.
Yeah, it's great.
But yeah.
But like that's the type of stuff we would do in the studio, and like it just raised morale. So there was less pressure.
Yeah.
When you were playing, to be like, all right.
But this was also like
here,
in between takes.
Yeah,
we're not like cutting efficiency. But one of the things that we did to prepare, because anyone that is going into a studio that is going to drop the money to record, music at a studio, make sure you have an expectation for what the sound is. Make sure you listen to your engineer. And make sure that you practice, record demos, do whatever. We recorded demos ourselves. Chris let me set up a whole multi-tracking system in our home studio. So we were able to... I
allowed him.
Yeah.
Granted him.
You granted me permission. And we set up the whole drum kit, mic'd it up. We set up, direct inputs for the bass, for the line out, and we did, mics for for Jack's guitar cab. And
we did just live run-throughs, and we picked the best take, and then we sent it to Frank, so he had an idea of what to expect. That's another thing unless you have some sort of amazing bankroll, go into the studio at least with like 90% of an idea for each song.
Yeah, it's really, really, the amateur demos are a very important part of it that a lot of people overlook, because that even if it's not going to be what you're putting out, even if it doesn't sound exactly the way you want it, it gives you an idea of what you're doing is going to sound like on a recording, and that's going to save you time in the studio.
Yeah, because then you're able to mold that expectation of what you want that sound to be, to either, you know, be more professional, to be more aggressive, to be more clean, to kind of like readjust a lot of things, because there were a lot of things that we had to readjust, either because of you know, just performance logistics, like we weren't able to do it live.
Yeah, some clashing notes every now and then, dynamics to add.
Stuff that like you really don't notice when you're playing in the studio, but when you're hearing it back and you're going layer by layer, you'll start to see like, oh, this needs to be changed, this needs to be changed, this needs to be changed.
It's like singing, you know, like you're never going to sound exactly the same in your head as you do on the recording. Exactly. So it's good to get it out of your head and hear a recording before you go in there for the professional.
Exactly. Like a perfect example of this, we have a song on the second album, Upheaval, and that song was a lot of fucking moving parts. That was just moving notes. We had to trim so much fat from that in order to get the song that we have now, and that was like so many fucking pedal boards.
It was tough to find the right tempo, because there's like a lot of like quick finger moving parts, and just to get those in time, you know, took some time.
Yeah, that song is
a recording. So
that song is a beast to play. Fun,
yeah,
but an absolute unit of a song. One of my favorite songs on the album, which I think is like
shout out to our friend Espo. It's his favorite song, and which was shocking. I was like, that was somebody's favorite. I was like, I wasn't banking on that. So, but
there's two people that I know. Upheaval is their favorite song.
Okay,
I just happen to be one of them.
Oh, I was gonna say, I'm keeping this close to the vest. I know two people, but
I know myself.
It's me and Espo.
We can't talk about it.
I'm a big enough man to be friends with myself.
So, what about Temptress? You played it just now. It's a beautiful song.
Yeah.
I love the harmonies.
Sure.
You did it acoustically, which is separate from, you know, what you usually do.
New for us. Yeah.
So, how did that all come together? What was the inspiration behind that?
Do you mean the original Temptress or the acoustic?
Who is the Temptress, by the way?
I mean, it's it's one of those things up for interpretation. Okay. But initially, when I was doing the lyrics for that song, it's kind of based on, you know, not to bring anything down, but like, well, the vibe of the song is very Volbeat, like, you know, doo-woppy stuff.
Doo-wop.
But the lyrics, it's very much almost like someone pulling you. Mm-hmm. You know, the thing that was in my mind was like suicide. Mm-hmm. How it's, you know, this voice in your head that's always trying to pull you, that negative sort of side of you. Mm-hmm. It's always kind of, sort of, you know, that's why in the song it says, you know, she was smiling because she saw somebody who was grieving. Mm-hmm. So she sees someone sad, so she's, you know, licking her chops, ready to wrap her in, and now you're always with her, kind of thing. So that's really where I was coming from.
When I first heard it,
goes against the sort of vibe of the song. It's kind of like upbeat. It almost sounds like a love song. Like people have said, like, "Man, it's like such a good love song." I'm like, please don't use it for your wedding.
Yeah.
Please don't use it for your wedding.
Please don't use it for your wedding.
I'm bound in chains, guys.
When I first heard it, I thought that he was having problems with his wife, and I was like, "Oh boy."
No.
When I heard it, I just thought it was just like, you know, a very storytelling song about like a relationship falling apart, and that's something that I noticed a lot in our writing and in their writing when I first joined them, because I wasn't on that first album. A lot of it's very song written-esque. Like even another song from that album, Spider and Fly, you know, when I interrogated Chris at gunpoint about the song,
it was a revolver.
Like, what is it about? And he was like, oh, it's from the fucking poem, you know?
Yeah, I forget the woman's name, but it was called, I think it was just called Spider to the Fly, by like some woman named Mary in like the 1800s. And I was trying to find the chorus for the song, and I couldn't figure out the lyrics, because I had the verses, which were about like this stalker kind of guy who was like looking after people. I forget, we were watching some documentary I was watching with my wife, and it was about some stalker. I was like, oh, let me just like write some things down, some like little notes. And I didn't write them down, I put them in my phone. And then I sort of stumbled across, because I'm like, what about the idea of like a spider? So like I started like looking things up about spiders, and Spider to the Fly. I was like, oh, like Spider to the Fly. I'm like, oh, it sounds pretty cool. Like, and then I just sort of built off that for the rest of the chorus. But that's something I think we like to do, and we've always been this way, because me and Jack have known each other since
second grade,
like second grade, and something we've always done, I think, even together, is like telling stories. Like we always liked writing.
Action figures.
Playing with action figures, coming up with stories.
Wrestling.
So a lot, that bleeds into like the lyrical writing and writing poems and stuff, and just having that sort of thread, because I feel like that's also what kind of separates our music from some other bands, is the lyrical content. And maybe this is just us kind of blowing smoke up our own ass, but I feel like it's more substantial than I guess what you're used to maybe hearing. Like like if you look into them, there is a story. Like there's no like lyrics that are there just to like, okay, this song's about nothing. Like we always have an idea behind it. It's
I like to think that
we want to go to the club and party. It's like, all right, that's fun every now and then, but not every song. Like,
not every song.
Come on, like have some sort of depth.
I think like our first album was very like one-off stories, because like even our biggest another big song on that, Legend of Donnie Brass, is literally about a cowboy slinging guy.
A story about my cousin Rich. Donnie. Shout out to Rich Talent, Donnie Brass Balls.
But our second album, I feel like, is where we kind of like penciled in more on that narrative writing, because when we sat down, the four of us with our old drummer, and looked at the album order, we literally had to sit for like 2 hours at a diner to deliberate what fucking order this album was going to be in to tell a narrative. Because there is a narrative to that album. Yeah. It's up to interpretation for a lot of people, but we have a concrete one that I've been slowly kind of like chipping away at for like additional media purposes. But I feel that if a band has a vision for any creative, thing that they want to do, whether it's a song, album, EP, they should always try and look for the best ways to expand on that. Whether it's merch to tell additional stories, or to flesh out some characters, or to flesh out motifs that you have, or whether it's looking at like the art on how you're decorating the CD, or the order of the album, or marketing. There are so many opportunities to brand yourself as a unique entity. And I feel that as, we continue on in this next year, Ronin, we're definitely going to have a few more things to give, new merch and stuff like that, that'll like help expand on the story of the second album, and even some more like reading materials that, we've been kind of like chipping away at.
Because when you make that connection within yourself as the band, I feel like people have something to latch onto. And I think that just sort of serves the band better when you have some sort of connection, because that's really what it's all about anyway, is making connections, especially with fans. They want to connect to the music in some way, and every now and then you might just have a single where like, oh, that's really good, but they're not into everything else. But when there's some sort of like through line, not necessarily narratively, but there's like a distinct sound where when you play it, it's like, okay, I'm understanding this. Like, this is their band. This is their sound. This is kind of their stamp. So if they can make that connection and then also look a little further and be like, oh, these songs are all connected. That's pretty cool, too. Not necessarily a concept album, because, I don't know if there was a concept when we first wrote the songs.
Not until
we didn't go into it, and then he started like putting some pieces together. He's like, this could be like a little story if we put it in this order. We're like, all right, let's sit down and do it. Okay, let's give it a go.
Yeah, I wrote that story. I got up at like 3 a.m. one day.
Woke up in a feverish sweat.
No, I woke up. Actually,
that's how inspiration starts.
I actually woke up to.
And then we realized he just had to pee.
I was just gonna say,
just a little gas.
Yeah.
I just figured out what I was gonna do.
I literally just about to say, I actually woke up to take a piss and was listening to the album that night when we had gotten some of the prints back, and I was like, "There's a story here." And we could definitely flesh this out. We could like Coheed and Cambria this thing and really like have an expanded, universe. And then Coheed's fucking great. They have like the comic books and stuff like that.
I'm always for the most pretentious thing we could possibly do. So
and making a comic book.
You're lucky we're not talking
some type of narrative story. That's something that like thankfully I finally found someone that was now willing to work on it and stuff like that. So
there is like a character to your music, and I guess Ronin is kind of like the spirit animal, so to speak.
It is our mascot.
Like a mascot.
Yeah, literally.
So like,
there's
Valak right here.
Valak signed his chest and he got the tattoo of it.
Yeah.
Wow. So
he's a big Valak fan.
How does that tie into the music that you do? Like,
so a lot
the idea of like just Ronin.
Yeah.
So we have no masters. We are a band that we have taken control of a lot of what we want to do and a lot of the things that we want to pursue. And a Ronin in, Japanese history, the someone correct me if I'm wrong, is a samurai without a master, without a lord, without, a place to protect, that just kind of goes by their own rules, that goes rogue and does whatever they fit that is morally right in their books. And we as a band, we didn't want to necessarily be too corporatized, and we didn't want to necessarily follow the lays of the land. We wanted to do things our way, do things the right way, but do things, our way.
Yeah, and a lot of it has to go back to when we're writing the music. Like, no two songs are exactly the same. Mm-hmm. So we can do a song like Temptress, which is more like upbeat and like fun, but then we have a song like One and the Same off the first album, which is like a 7-minute, like this long acoustic intro, and it's more like has thrash sections to it. So I like having that as like the lay of the album for each album, to be like, okay, this isn't just like a metal band, this isn't just like a rock band. They kind of dance in and out of a bunch of different genres. And then we have more poppy songs like Monster off the second album. Yeah. It has like really good hooks, and it's shorter. Mm-hmm. Or Hatred's Mate, which is more of like, the punk it has like a punk feel to it, also like a shorter. Mm-hmm. So we can kind of give you different flavors. And that's why I think we were surprised when our friend Espo was like, oh, well, People's my favorite song. We're like, really? Like, we didn't think that was going to speak to you. But then you'll talk to 10 people, and each of them will have a different favorite song, which, maybe could be a good thing or a bad thing. Where it's like, you want everyone to love that one song. But it's like, okay. But I kind of like having something to offer for everyone. Like, Wonder is the closer.
Yeah.
The album. And that's like a Leonard Skinner sort of ballady.
And everyone that I know loves that song, whether it's their favorite one or not. I get so many good responses from that.
Yeah, because that's another one that's like very emotional and has the story to it. And and people will connect with that. They can they can sort of feel the emotion through it. Mm-hmm. Which is, I think a good achievement to have as a band. When someone comes back to you with that feedback, even if it's just one person, you still be like, all right, we did something right.
Also, going back to the not wanting to be corporatized, it's easy for us to say that when we haven't been offered a fortune yet. So, I mean, if you guys want to offer us a fortune, we'll see if we don't sell out. We might not. We probably will.
By the way,
we probably would. Let's be real here.
Ronin is sponsored by Castor Oil. We're going to start wearing like the NASCAR jacket.
We know our Shinola from the other thing.
Anybody want some
sponsored by
Doritos?
Yeah, by the way. Label out.
So I spoke to my therapist on BetterHelp.
People just sell out for nothing.
Yeah, nothing. Man, these are really tasty. Have you tried the new flavor?
Have you tried Coke?
Yeah,
you know what Coca-Cola is?
Aspirin?
Yeah.
Aspirin, anybody?
Yeah, the new Ronin.
How about a slice of pizza,
What kind of Band-Aids were those? Plug them.
Yeah.
Just Band-Aids, man.
This guy tends to cut himself every time.
Not intentionally. Has nothing to do with the song Temptress, I swear.
It has everything to do with the song Temptress.
He actually cut it on his guitar.
I cut it on your guitar because you're an asshole. That's why.
I cut my teeth on my guitar. He cut his fingers.
We're not the same. He likes to bite his shit.
So, the band Ronin.
Oh, hey, Shay.
It's been around for a little while. And this is me, clearly Shay speaking.
Yes.
Holy shit. You
look different.
No, hold on. Your host voice is so much different than your normal. That was excellent. I love that. You got like such a smooth radio voice. That's really good.
He should be on the radio. He was on the radio.
Oh, well, yeah, it was on STC radio for like one day.
Yeah, that was great.
But I do want to hear about the forming and the evolution of Ronin. So, I know Bojack wasn't around for the making of the first album. And you guys mentioned that
Chris is actually the only founding member left.
True.
Yeah, true.
So you two met through some kind of folk project you'd mentioned.
Yeah.
And then you formed Ronin on your own. How did this band come to be?
Yeah, so like I said earlier, me and him have been friends since like first grade, all through school. And I don't know if you want to take us through the Bad Larry era before Ronin became a thing.
I came out of college and I wanted to be Tom Waits in the worst way. So I started a folk band.
Every little boy's dream.
I
want to be Tom Waits.
And so I started this folk band and started writing songs, and a couple of those songs have now moved over to Ronin. Because we didn't really have any talk about rights of music in Bad Larry. It was just sort of like, whatever you want to play. So, we were in that band for like 2 years, 2.5, 3 years.
Together, the two.
Yeah. Well, it was actually a pretty big band. We had 2 guitars, a bass, a saxophonist, and I was on ukulele and keyboards. And that was a weird mix.
Yeah, this was a project he started with one of our buddies, Mikey Vitale, and it was just the two of them for a while. And then I had just picked up guitar in like 2014, I think.
Yeah.
And
early.
he was like, "Oh, I have this project, Bad Larry." I'm like, "All right, awesome." Yeah. Not thinking he's gonna be like, "Oh, do you want to play?" And he's like, "Oh, you should play with us." I'm like, "Well, I barely know what strings are." I'm like, "What is pick? I cannot compute." And he's like, "All right, here's a list of 20 songs we're gonna play like in a month." I'm like, "Okay." Now like shit got real.
I'm pretty sure I said to you something along the lines of, if John Lennon can play rhythm guitar, you can play rhythm guitar.
Shots fired. John Lennon, poor John Lennon catching strays in the grave. In the afterlife. Catching all sorts of strays. But so we did that project for a couple of years, and then shout out to Mike Schuler, Michael Vetter. And
Michael Vetter was in your band?
Yeah, he was the drummer.
Oh, you know Michael Vetter?
Yeah, I just saw him at Barrier a long time.
Oh, he's a really cool guy.
Really, I mean,
he's a really good
talk
guy.
about fantastic musicians. So I'm
gonna
very
see
out
him
of
next
place.
week.
Yeah,
but
get him in.
For one reason or another, that band just like kind of sort of dissolved.
Petered out, huh?
And I was like, I just kind of want to do something. So it was someone's bachelor party, I forget whose. On the way home, our first bassist, Andrew Vitale, so shout out to him. We were driving to Atlantic City and just talking about music, and I've been talking about how I'm playing guitar, writing songs, and I convinced him to get a bass when we got back. So he picked up a bass, and probably not the best decision of his, but he decided to make me his bass teacher. Me not knowing how to even play guitar.
Right.
I was like, all right, we'll just jam. So we jammed for like 6-8 months, and then he started like doing some YouTube stuff, learned on his own. We got his buddy Jack Lenahan, shout out to him, playing drums in my old basement. He wanted to pursue his art thing, so he went off to that. And then we got our friend Moss, Justin Moss, on drums, who we've known since 9th grade, been friends with him. Mm-hmm. So he came in, started playing drums. We recorded like a quick EP in my basement, which I don't know how to record either.
Did it ever go out, the EP?
We released it. We released it,
Oh, yeah.
and then since then took it down.
We've re-recorded all the
We
songs.
re-recorded a lot of the songs.
Yeah,
That'll be like a 30th anniversary of Ronin release.
Yeah.
And these were songs written by you.
Yes. Yeah. So it was primarily
First round.
pretty much just by me.
First
Were
round
those
of
some
Valak,
of the
right?
first songs that you ever wrote?
Yes.
Yeah.
That
Yes.
was.
Like the one song "Greetings," which is off our first album. That was probably the first
Ronin
riff.
album.
Yeah. Probably the first riff I ever wrote was that one.
wow.
I was like, this is like, that sounded pretty cool. And then just sort of building off of that. So then eventually, after the EP came out,
He dragged his feet before inviting me for
dragged
some
his feet.
reason.
This was, I think, my 30th birthday party in my basement. Showed him some of the songs. I was like, "Are you interested in playing lead guitar?" But he never really played guitar either. He played some string instruments. He played.
I played a lot of instruments. I dabbled in a lot.
in the keys.
I studied voice in college. I've always been into music,
he's like,
but
he's like a journeyman.
I was more like I was more into ukulele at that point. So and I had tuned when I was not playing a real ukulele. I was playing the tuning of my ukulele was pretty much the top 4 strings of the guitar.
I see.
So it was actually kind of easy for me to switch over because I had a little bit of ukulele under my belt. I had a little bit of bass under my belt. I just sort of threw both of those instruments
Smash
together.
them together.
Yeah, and I went from 4 to 6 strings. And when I first started the first show I played with them, I had no idea what I was doing. I had been playing guitar for about 6 months. Even today, I've only been playing guitar seriously for like 5 years, and I still feel like I have no idea what I'm doing.
Well, you're in good company.
Yeah.
But so that we had the band and we started gigging, and in that time we were kind of working on. We probably had like 15 or 16 songs that we were like working on originals, and then we kind of narrowed that down to 8. Went to the studio, recorded it, released
And you
it.
did that during COVID too.
We
It was
were
right when COVID was starting.
I think we had 1 recording session before COVID, maybe 2. It was like the day of our second recording session. They're like, everything's shut down.
And then suddenly it's like we could only go in 1 at a time. That was a real struggle.
In the studio?
Yeah, we had to go 1 at
And
a
that was
time.
at Voodoo.
Yeah.
We had already gotten all the drum tracks down.
I see.
Luckily, those first 2 sessions, we got all 8 songs, drums. We're like, all right. So then
Really?
each of us could go in 1 at a time, but it kind of
Kills
killed
the vibe,
a
right?
little.
The energy.
You want input from the whole band present? Yeah, absolutely.
Well, speak for yourself. But that's why I think the second album, when we brought him in, because our friend Andrew moved to Texas, got married, so he was starting his life. So you can't blame anybody for doing that. Like that kind of goes back to what we spoke about earlier with finding that work-life balance, and then also adding a band in. So it's like, what the hell are we doing here? But then we had him in, and then that's sort of that's where we are today.
it's a very inspiring story, because what I hear is like, and correct me if I have the wrong angle, but it sounds like you were kind of picking up the guitar, not really knowing exactly what you were doing.
Yeah.
You had your friend with a little more musical experience, and you played with his eclectic band. Then you decided, when it petered out, that you'd start your own thing, but you didn't know how far it would go, and you didn't know exactly what it would look like. And you brought in different people, and then there's a series of swap outs and swap ins, and next thing you know, you guys are, freaking killer band.
Mm-hmm. Next thing you know, the royalties are going everywhere.
Yeah. They're going to everybody. Yeah. People go to get a book and they're like, "What the hell is this crap?"
So they open up like a random book in the fiction section.
Yeah, it's just the disc, the Valak disc is
just popping out.
The intention to me is really interesting, though, because I think when you started, was your intention when you started, it was like, oh, let's just make some music and see what happens, or was it like?
Pretty much. That was kind of where, that's where at least my mind was when I was just jamming with the original bassist Vitali, was like, then I got Pro Tools, and then I got like a Focusrite thing to record in. Get sponsors if you'd like. And we just started recording stuff. I didn't know how to use Pro Tools. Right. Just sort of like really just winging it, throwing shit and spaghetti at the wall to cover all our bases. Sure. Like shit balls, meatballs, and spaghetti. Just chucking it and just being like, okay, that actually sounds pretty good. And then, I was writing solos, my version of what a solo should sound like, which no one wants to hear. And like those were on those original EPs because it was just the three of us. So I'm like, I have to. I love guitar solos. I have to put them on this album if it's, our music. So that's really the intention at first. I didn't really think there was going to be a band.
Right.
And then the first time we actually had a name was we were going to open for, I forget what band it was, but it was at another RIP, Revolution, in Amityville. We visited a band on their show because we were going to potentially open for them in the spring. So we're just, kind of like shooting the shit with them. And like, oh, well, what's your band name? We're like, what? Like, oh, wait, we don't have a band name. So later that week, we just sort of were spitballing ideas, and Ronin just kind of stuck out to me, and I said it to Moss and Vitali at the time, and they're like, that's kind of cool. And then it fit our sort of idea of what rock music should be and like what our sound should be, which is sort of, genre fluid. Right. It's 2024. Genre fluid across the spectrum. And that's kind of, that was sort of the birth of Ronin. That's kind of where we were going.
Right.
Did I think we were going to then get a lead guitarist and then make albums in a studio? That was never on my mind because I was still just trying to figure out what the fuck I was doing.
Right.
Still to this day, trying to figure out what the fuck I'm doing. But
well, that's what I was going to ask too. So that's where the intention was that brought you to this point. And now, like, moving forward with the momentum that you guys have and the opportunities available for you, through Pavement and through, some of the commercial success you've had with your album, what do you guys envision moving forward of Ronin? What goals do you have? Are you trying to tour more? Is it more recording goals? You want to go tour through China? I mean, what do you guys got?
That would be interesting.
Plain and simple.
Some songs we would not be allowed to play.
Right.
They'd be like, you cannot play this. This is too anti-government.
Beyond the pale.
Yeah.
I think for us, and I think we all kind of agreed on it, we want our music to be heard. We want it to be enjoyed by people. And if we sell out, we sell out. And I think, if we can sell out, whether it's through, commercial success or through,
just selling,
touring or getting like some crazy, sponsored deal, endorsement deal, I think that'll like kind of be where we would want to go. If we can make this a sustainable career where we can all leave our nine to fives and make sure that everything is okay at home, I think we would all be 100% comfortable. And it's a goal, and it's not an unrealistic goal. It's just a goal that takes a lot of hard fucking work. Yeah. And, like Chris Rubin said in like one of our very first episodes, having everybody under the same idea, having everybody under the same, mindset and banner, is the only way that we're going to keep pushing. And that's really what we kind of envision between recording new music, getting new material and merch out, reorganizing ourselves and, locating a new drummer and everything.
Right, so, I guess that's step one. Right?
Yeah, step one is definitely...
Step one is the drummer.
Hit their line if you want to play for a fucking killer Long Island.
I think our real vision of the future is something along the lines of, I want a brand new house on an episode of Cribs and a bathroom I can play baseball in and a king-size tub big enough for 10 plus me. I think Nickelback said it right.
We all want to be rock stars.
Yeah, exactly.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Nice little plug.
Yeah, hit it large. Hell yeah.
Yeah, we want to hit a large.
Yeah, and like you said, step one is getting the drummer, and then we might even maybe toy with different ideas when we're going into the studio next time. Maybe instead of doing huge batches, we might do like one at a time.
Yeah.
To sort of kind of spread it out. And then
we've already talked about
the
that.
idea.
Like, I think singles moving forward is the way to go for a little while, because now we built
a
up
nice
our
base.
collection. Yeah, we have a catalog of music now where like we put out a new single, people can go and explore the other 16
we have
songs that
16 other songs. Like
And not even that, we have enough in our log from having 2 studio albums and playing covers and all of us playing in our own projects or playing our own music and stuff like that, where we can have a set list and cultivate it to a band that's on there. We have maybe like 6-7 songs that are just pure straight heat of just heavy stuff, and then we have like another 6-8 songs that are more on the mellow side, and then depending on like which songs we use to accent or what cover songs we use to accent,
mid-rangey stuff.
yeah, we kind of like build our set list around those bands that we're on, like we're supporting or that we're sharing bills with, or if we're headlining, we just give everybody the grand slam of set lists.
Yeah, as long as we can play.
Speaking of set lists and playing on with other people, there's an interesting topic. I don't know if you guys are going to feel comfortable talking about it or not, so you can like maybe
We'll just check with the lawyers.
Yeah, you ask the lawyers.
hang on.
Yeah, well, so just I guess generally speaking, though, do you think, is one of the reasons why you wouldn't take one of those like expensive deals? Is it because of the price, or do you think you would put up that money if like you didn't want to like be away for too long kind of thing, or what's your thinking?
That's a tough. It's really hard because it depends on how much money it is, and because you'll get an offer and say, okay, there's going to be a UK tour, you can do the whole thing, $50K. And that sounds like, all right, that's a lot, but maybe that's manageable. But you're not thinking, okay, that's also, I need to add in airfare, hotels, food, travel expenses. You're probably going up to 100,000 on that.
So that doesn't include like tour bus.
No,
that's just what you're paying.
That's
for the
just
slot.
for the slot. That doesn't.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
So you'd end up coming out like probably $70,000 out of pocket by the end of it.
Maybe more. Maybe more.
But there's the chance, right? There's the chance that you blow up.
Right.
And like people are just ravenous for you. But that's a gamble. That's a big gamble.
Yeah.
But like we've done ones where it's much less. So we look at it as maybe an investment.
Right.
Because we know, we're like, okay, it's in this location. I know on this date, like a Saturday night, like we could definitely bring 75 people or something like that.
Yeah.
Which we've done before. And like, okay, we could definitely make a profit on the show. So the buy-on is going to be a wash.
Right.
We're gonna go over that. So like that investment to open for that band is better.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas some options like that.
For example, we had the opportunity to go to Canada and play a couple of nights with a band. We had to buy in for that. But I mean,
we actually did.
Oh, we did?
We didn't. No, that was a full.
That
split.
was a full offer, and we got paid for those shows. We just had a front.
Get me.
No. Like remember before when I did the Poncha thing? That was true. That's a nice little callback. No, like they offered us the slot. We accepted. We just had to, they weren't going to be like, oh, we'll pay for your travel, we'll give you gas money. It's like, I'm not expecting that.
Right.
But like we were able to like pretty much make out okay on that trip.
Yeah, we paid a little bit, but I mean, we were able to sell a little bit of merch, and there was a little bit of guaranteed money coming in.
Yeah, so like, that was worth it. And it's also cool to say like, we've played international.
We're an international band now. Yeah,
we played in
Put
Quebec and Montreal. Put it on the list.
Check it off the box.
We're going to Ontario next. But no, and I to compound off of him, I feel like it comes down to 3 things. It comes down to these 3 questions.
Profit.
Is it a worthwhile investment? Can you make a profit? Does it work in everybody's schedules? And schedules.
Schedules is probably big.
Does it work with everybody's schedules and availability? And overall, does the opportunity fit the shoe? There are a lot of bands that I see, they like get so overwhelmed when they're given like something like, hey, pay X amount and you can do this, and this. And if they take it, they might just end up being done. They might tank. And I think really, looking at the plan, looking at the deal, looking at the wording, the numbers, and taking the time to really sit and work through it kind of helps with a lot.
There are opportunities that we could take. And summer's the best time to tour anyway.
Sure.
Yeah.
If a tour came along that was worthwhile and we were
In the summer, we would totally.
we could make out like bandits. And that's luckily, for me, I'm fortunate enough that my family situation is very secure, a very supportive family for everything I do. Shout out to the wife.
Thank you, D.
Hope you better be home cooking. No, but seriously, shout out to the family for the support because if they wouldn't go in, if they're not going in on it, then it's not happening.
Right.
And they know this is something I love. They know this is a passion.
And they probably love and
Yeah, absolutely. Chris,
I mean, his kids are usually the only one. His kids are the ones who are only they're the only ones moshing at our shows. So.
Yeah. And as far as their college, whatever. it is what it is. I'll take out a loan for a tour, and then whatever happens with their college tuition, that's fine. That'll come along on its own time. Grandparents can pay for college.
Yeah, there you go. Or you get one son.
No, but in all seriousness, it's all those factors play in, and then just as you as a band, where are we as a band, and then where are you as individuals?
Yeah.
Because we are a collective as a band, so we have to see what's best for the band. But you also always have to remember that you are. Now just 3 individuals, soon hopefully 4 individuals. So you have to see where are you financially also.
Yeah,
right.
Is this
both as individuals and as a band.
Is this something you guys can invest in? Be like, all right, I'm not going to have to lose my home. I'm not going to have to my car's not going to get repossessed. I'm not going to be in such dire straits because I went in on this. If you can weigh all those options and go, all right, this is manageable. Just like in your day-to-day life when you make a big purchase.
Yeah, and
is this something I can afford? Okay.
And that's the other thing we're having, like an LLC or sole proprietorship as a musician, where you make that investment, you'll be able to counteract that by treating yourself as a business. When you treat yourself legitimately, when you treat yourself as a business, when you treat yourself as a rock star, I do on social media.
Yeah, it's like our buddy Patillo. His principles: look good, feel good, play good.
Exactly.
So it's there's some truth to that. It's a little bit of a silly phrase.
There is,
but
especially for him.
Yeah.
He doesn't even play.
He neither looks good, he never plays good. It feels like shit.
But it's really a motivating factor for you to really focus in on one point for success. And
then there's stakes.
Yeah,
there's stakes. We gotta move now.
Yeah,
we gotta really try.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm curious about too. Because success as a band, it's kind of an arbitrary concept.
Yes.
Some people, if you get on a stage, you're successful. And some people, if you're doing it full time, they consider that success. Or how much you're making, right? If you could buy a house, or
right.
So, but there's a lot of different metrics. If you're touring, some people, that's a huge goal. That's a huge goal of mine. I just want to go on tour with the band. But anyway, there's these different metrics, and some people just want to be signed to a label. And I'm curious, I guess with all these different ways to view success as a band, what do you think is the best path forward for just the average band in Long Island? Do you think there are benefits to trying to work out some kind of deal through Pavement, or do you think we're in the era of the independent artist? How do you see bands being able to achieve their goals for success?
It depends on the amount of work that they want to put in. A lot of people have the free time to put in the work to be an independent artist. You have people like Logan Whaley that, tour and play every single night on Long Island. You have bands like Aquacherry that are constantly touring. You have bands like Moose Creek Park. They're doing tours in the summer and they're, going at it. And those are pretty popular bands that do a lot of independent things, and they all have different metrics for success. And it really depends on how much dedication you have to it and what you're working with. We're fortunate enough that we have jobs. We're fortunate enough that we're able to pay our way through a lot of things to be able to, kind of take certain shortcuts that other bands otherwise couldn't, because they either don't have the financial commitment or the financial security to do that. While we do have, the finances and stuff, we also have to consider we have all these other parts that are moving in our lives, so we don't have the full time to dedicate, and that's where, finances kind of supplement that.
Right, and it helps kind of bolster, and then you're more focused when you're all working on the band. We're we only have this much time allotted each week, and we're working on this, this, and this, so we're super laser focused when we're working.
Right.
And I think a lot of that comes down to what's the sustainability of what you're trying to do. Mm-hmm. So those bands that he mentioned, when they're touring the Midwest, it's all right, well, how long can they do that, and are they turning a profit? Because again, no one wants to talk about the money thing, the finances. Yeah. But it's good to say that. It'd be oh yeah, we're doing this, 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 and this. But it's oh my God, we're
in the red.
We're 12 grand in the hole.
Yeah, being in the industry is eye-opening, and I mean, not to jump into conspiracy theories, but I am really starting to believe that every musician that you've ever seen that acts or looks like they are wealthy and successful, that's all a lie. None of that's real. None of that is real. None of them are successful in that sense. I mean, okay, you got your Taylor Swifts, you got your Michael Jacksons. Of course, yeah, they're successful, but like all the bands that are opening for them, even if they're on stage looking put together, sounding put together, they're not making money. And you should understand that going into it, that like there's a very high bar for the point where like the investment ends and it's starting to return.
If you're on a record label, or even if you're not,
I think either way. I think that, I mean, on the record label, there are different pitfalls from, you're going to face the same amount of money that you have to pay. It's just, are you paying it to the label or are you paying it to
DIY?
Yeah. Are you paying it to the label or are you paying it to a marketer? Are you paying it to Facebook ads? Are
band
you paying
manager?
It to this? Are you paying it to a band manager? It really depends on where your finances are and what your priorities are. You know, a DIY band, and there are a lot of bands that I know that do DIY, spend a lot of their time mixing and, cultivating their sound through, their talents and their skills because they have the time to dedicate to that. And that's commendable. If you have fucking 3 hours that you can spend on a mix, go for it. I used to spend 4 hours on our demos and stuff like that because I had the time for it. But as things have changed, I can't spend 4 or 5 hours mixing something if, it's not for a final product, or if it's not for this or that, or if it's not for the purpose of like
worth the time.
Pushing the band forward, so again, it's down to the amount of commitment and what people need. And I think every band should do a personal inventory with themselves, with each individual, look at everyone's schedule,
there's no like cookie cutter way.
Yeah.
But I think the best advice is like what we're saying. It's like they have to look at their situation as a band and as people.
So how does a band mitigate OnlyFans?
Well, it all starts with the camera. And it's all about lighting.
You see, we're all naked with the guitars in front of our junk, so it's not technically
very, very Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Now, this is something I do want to know, though. Okay, so you were mentioning how you guys are laser focused when you're together in a room. Mm-hmm. How much of the time that you guys spend together as a band is committed toward like taking care of like business things, ideas, logistics, versus like how much is like practicing and like getting the music down?
It's a little different because for conversations like that, we'll talk in chat, we'll talk over the phone. I mean, when we're together in the same room, we're focusing on the music because we don't have like endless time.
If it's urgent and it comes up then and there, that's usually a conversation that we have. Or if it's a very serious one, we kind of like dedicate or allocate some time during the week to kind of like.
Or maybe we'll go out for a dinner.
Yeah, we'll go out to like diner.
So it's mostly handled through. Like,
but it's mostly handled through text message, mostly because I think. At least I'm lucky that these guys are great communicators, and I've learned so much from being in a band with these guys and, touring with them, playing with them, working in the studio with them, where we've gotten so comfortable that we're able to kind of like just effectively communicate our thoughts on something right then and there. And even if there is miscommunication, it's usually just like one phone call.
We'll have entire conversations with just memes.
Yeah, like, oh, we're going to book a show. And
everything's communicated through passive aggression.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, no, I was just
you have a great smile.
It's
like I wasn't sure if like, is that how you guys got there?
When we're together, it's usually just jamming the music, or if we discuss something previously, it's like, let's talk about this, or let's film some content.
Yeah. That's when the bass guitar comes up and the shirts come off,
That's when I start coming up with skits and they're like, Jack, we can't do that.
Yeah, we can't. Jack, we can't do that one.
All right, anyway, guys, let's wrap it up. It's been real.
Absolutely.
The one, the only Ronin of Long Island.
Hell yeah.
You guys check them out. You rock out to their stuff. Check out
Stream Valak the Defiler.
Temptress. Check out that
Valak the Defiler.
You're
getting the second album, Valak.
And if you're interested in samurais, if you're interested in kick-ass music, if you're interested in the power of
actually, wait.
Oh, should we
do I have a copy of it?
Or should we just grab it?
He's pulling something out.
You see this fucking thing?
Buy
this thing.
Dude,
buy it. Look, I spent 8 fucking hours with my friend Isaiah working on this fucking art just for you. Buy this shit, bro.
Go in your mom's purse right now.
Take the credit card.
Please,
numbers on the front, numbers on the back. Please.
What's your website?
Ronin-band.com.
Ronin-band.com and make a purchase today. You won't regret it.
All right.
All right, thank you guys for coming out. Appreciate you. That's Roman. That's episode.
You got
That's
it.
episode
Talking to you.
16.
Thanks for having us. Thanks.
Thank you. Peace.
All right, let's
Goodbye.
get the hell out of here.